The NHL season may be over, but the summer is piping hot with the Canadian Football League, tennis, PGA, F1, and of course, the Toronto Blue Jays, as they are gunning for a playoff spot. And all the action starts at Sports Interaction, Canada's sportsbook. Bet before the game, live in play on one of our many prop bets. Doing it right since 1997. Sports Interaction makes it easy to deposit, play, and cash out. Join now and see all of what sports betting has to offer. Head to sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. sportsinteraction.com/SDPN. 19 plus. Please play responsibly. At the risk of our podcast sounding dated with when it comes to Nazem Kadri, as of this morning when we're recording, still available out there. I just have this weird feeling he's going to go back to Colorado, considering some of the teams that have taken themselves off the board with some of the free agent signings they've made. I'm thinking of like a Rangers or a Detroit. I wonder if he ends up just taking whatever money is available left to him in Colorado instead of going somewhere else.
Well, that's the $1 million question, or maybe $50 million question, depending on what kind of term Nazem's signing. But, you know, the one thing that he said from the beginning and meant it, that he was hoping to do a deal with Colorado. Now, that's a tough thing for them to do. That, you know, they re-signed Nichushkin, they re-signed Josh Manson, they extended Arturi Lehkonen. You know, so they spent some money keeping some of the key parts of that Cup team together. And I just don't know if there's enough there for Kadri, because remember, they're also going to sign Nathan MacKinnon here to an extension that doesn't kick in until 2023, but it's going to be a big jump on what's been a huge value contract in the league for years on MacKinnon. I mean, he might make twice as much on the next deal. And so, you know, it's hard to know, but the way the sides have left things is that the Kadri camp would sort of check in with the Avalanche. If it was going to make a decision, maybe give them a last best chance to stay, that kind of thing. And so, you know, you're right. There's some of the obvious landing spots did go away on him. You know, I wondered about Detroit just because it was so close to his hometown of London. They had a need, you know, trying to build out a much better second line, which I think they've done with the moves that they made, you know, Andrew Kopp being the most notable among them. But yeah, it was it's a good spot for Kadri in some ways, because I think he gets a chance to digest it. It's so hard for some of the guys down the market, though. Like they're making a call on where they're going to live in some cases, you know, in a matter of minutes or an hour. And so, you know, if you're one of the top players in the market, I think you can get a sense where you're going early, but then everything kind of unfolds like a cascading set of decisions from there. And you know, I would say Kadri's still in a fortunate position, even if there's not a ton of money out there, because he's going to end up with a great contract and playing somewhere he's comfortable with.
Seattle, Calgary, maybe as a consolation prize. Anybody else in those sweepstakes?
I don't know if Calgary has the money. I mean, like, they could do it, don't get me wrong, but they have less money than it looks like if you know, dial up Puckpedia or Cap Friendly, you know, because they got $9 million that you would think is earmarked for Tkachuk. I would say Mangiapane's deal, based on people I've talked to, is probably ending up somewhere 5 to 6 range. So for just round numbers, let's even say it's the low end of that. That's still $14 million. They still have Oliver Shillington to sign. And at that point, you got what, $3 or $4 million left over. Now, maybe there's a trade to be made or another way to make it work. I'm certainly not saying they can't do it, but it's not maybe as apparent or as easy as it looks if you just look at one of those sites. Now, the other part too is that you know, Kadri has to want to go there, and you know, I don't know whether he does or he doesn't, but we do know for a fact he was traded there in 2019 and refused to waive a no trade clause to go. Now, there was other factors at that time. I think he was still hoping blocking that trade he might stay a Leaf. But in the past, he had a chance to go to be a member of the Flames and wasn't. So yeah, there's not a lot of other open spots. I could see Seattle doing it, but they also made their own signings, right? They gave money to Burakovsky in free agency, and so it's getting late early, I'm sure, but I'm confident he's got a couple offers that he's looking at, and it's just a matter of figuring out what's best for he and his family.
Another move I that stood out to me, and I understand that it was kind of not really telegraphed, but a lot of people were hoping that it would happen. It ended up coming to fruition. Claude Giroux going to the Ottawa Senators, arguably the most notable person to ever come out of Hearst, Ontario. Yes, that's a shot at our friend Pierre LeBrun. But yeah, him going to the Ottawa Senators and looks as if he might be able to at least play out the twilight of his career relatively close to home. By the way, Hearst in Ontario, nowhere near close, like 11 hours between Hearst and Ottawa. Like that's a long, like what do you do in Hearst?
I don't have an answer to that. I mean, we need to get Pierre on the pod for a lot of reasons, but
we should.
I think it's like a lot of places. You play hockey or sports. I mean, it's an outdoorsy place, but it's far. I've never been up that far, right? I've literally traveled around the world. I've been to Russia like 5 times, and I've never been to truly what people would say Northern Ontario. So, it's a place, even if you're from Ontario, you don't necessarily get to. I mean, obviously you could visit I guess you could take a trip up there if you were into camping or fishing or whatever. Or some people see it because they drive across the country, and it's the way to get to Manitoba is going up and around the Great Lakes. But yeah, it's far away. A lot of people in Hearst end up in Ottawa. Hearst is a Franco-Ontario town, as Pierre LeBrun is, as Claude Giroux is, so they speak French. Ottawa is a pretty bilingual city in Canada. So I do know a lot of people from Northern Ontario end up in Ottawa. Pierre himself went to Carleton University in Ottawa. So there's a lot of ties between the two places. But yeah, it's up there, bud. We should take a road trip there. Maybe we got some CJ Show fans up in Northern Ontario.
I was about to say, if we're taking a road trip up to Hearst, Ontario, that is going to be a very fun bus ride at this point. You have to get the entire SDPN in one of those big sprinter buses driving up to Hearst. If people are out there,
among the SDPN crew, who would we have drive that bus? Like, who would we trust most to get us places and not get lost? And
Jesse or Adam? I don't want Jesse. Jesse might be the person. Adam might drive Jesse. I'll say Jesse. Final answer. He's just the most responsible person at the SDPN.
Yeah, I feel like as long as you have Jesse there, everything's under control. Everybody else, it could turn into Lord of the Flies, but Jesse will just keep order by just his mere presence. Is
it kind of funny that neither of us considered Steve at all for this?
Oh no.
No, we just said no. I love Steve, but no.
He's got his name on the network, and he's got his legion of followers well earned, but I'm not putting him in charge of anything else.
No, absolutely not. Okay, but Claude Giroux going to the Ottawa Senators, that's still a pretty cool signing, capping off what has been a great offseason for Pierre Dorion so far.
Yeah, it's a seal of approval signing. That's what it is, right? It's proof that what the Senators have done and plan to do is being seen the right way, because Claude Giroux could have went and played for teams that had a much better winning percentage than Ottawa did last year, that have maybe much higher ambitions of winning a Stanley Cup. And I think by him going there, it shows that he thinks that they're closer than maybe it might appear if you only just were to sort by the NHL standings the last few seasons. And you can see why I would think that. They got some great young players on organization. I know it hasn't all come together to this point. They feel that they've gotten a goaltending position solidified now. I think with Anton Forsberg and Cam Talbot, a veteran to kind of stabilize things there. In my view, they still have to improve their blue line, and that's something Pierre Dorion is trying to do. So, let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. I'm certainly not predicting they're a Stanley Cup contender next season, but in a very difficult division, the Atlantic, they've definitely taken a step forward with their group. And, I think Giroux means a lot, just sort of intangibly. But he also scored 0.8 points per game or something in that neighborhood last season. So he's going to help. He's going to help their team in a direct way, but it means something. I don't know if you saw the video. He had his son Gavin come into the Canadian Tire Center yesterday when he signed his contract. That video, first of all, it was 3 minutes of just nothing but wholesome content, taking his son around, seeing the Zamboni, getting a hug from Spartacat, being part of his press conference that he had with the reporters there. But it's also, let's give these organizations their due, and especially their fans that have been through a lot, that they get to celebrate getting a player like that. I think it's really cool for that franchise, and it's great for Claude, because he does make his family home there in the off season. Doesn't have to move come September. He's just going to be staying right where he is.
Yeah, I like it for Ottawa, because just with what they've gone through over the last how many years with trying to rebuild this team to get back into being into the playoffs, and obviously all the behind the scenes stuff with Eugene Melnyk. It's been a bit of a weird time to be an Ottawa Senators fan and to see the product on the ice get to a point where they actually look pretty cool. Like, I don't think they're a cup contending team all of a sudden, but I do think they're going to be a fighter for a playoff spot next year. And that's great.
You've got to take them seriously now, right? And, I think they've been trending towards that. This last season just didn't go the way they wanted. I think that they thought they were ready for that step this last season. It didn't happen. But now the way they're operating, it feels like it has to happen. It feels like there's an urgency from the front office, bringing better players in. And, I have to believe that's going to flood into the dressing room and on the ice. I mean, who knows what results will be? I mean, so often the teams that we say like win free agency or win the offseason don't win enough games the next year. It doesn't always equate. It doesn't always come together in the right way. But I do think that they put themselves in a position where they've earned our attention. And let's see how they build this thing out. And again, I don't think their offseason's done by any stretch. I mean, they traded Connor Brown away on Wednesday to Washington for a second round pick. They're well armed to make a subsequent move on the blue line. And what that is, I think, can help dictate the success of the operation, because they just weren't deep enough in their top six last year to really compete with, the heavies in the division, the Tampas and the Bostons and the Torontos. But I think that they should feel better about their position now.